Some pretty big news hit yesterday that has the potential to have quite the impact on the musical instrument industry. It could be for the better, it could be for the worse, could be both. It's that Reverb, the biggest online musical instrument selling platform, is in the process of being sold from Etsy to private investors who are also the biggest majority shareholders of Fender. But this isn't the first time that Reverb have been sold. Reverb were founded in 2013 by Chicago Music Exchange, and they quickly became the place to sell secondhand gear online worldwide. In fact, more than just secondhand gear, plenty of retailers list their new listings on Reverb as well. It is the marketplace for instruments, so much so that eBay were trying to compete with them. eBay lowered their fees for musical instruments to match Reverb's 3.5%. Now, when Etsy purchased Reverb in 2019 for $275 million, things changed. The fees on Reverb went up from 3.5% to 5%, and swiftly after, eBay followed suit, again matching Reverb. On top of this 5%, Reverb add a 3.19% payment processing fee, as well as an extra 49 cents on top of all of that. So the fees steadily went up under Etsy's control. But there are things that people blame Etsy for which are not their fault, like the IRS 1099 tax form that Reverb required you to fill out. That wasn't a Reverb thing, that was an IRS thing, and it didn't matter who owned Reverb, that was a thing that was going to happen either way. And the other thing that I see blamed on Etsy, which is somewhat partially their fault perhaps, with the increase of fees, people feel the need to make that money up by passing that on in the sale price. And that has resulted in, frankly, delusional prices on Reverb. I'll give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. And I think this has something to do with the fees, and also the overall idea that musical instrument equipment is an investment and everybody needs a return on investment, which just isn't the truth or even close to it. Here's an example. I was looking at the Wampler Bell overdrive pedal. Thought, that looks cool. Let's see if there's any deals on Reverb. This is the cheapest that I found. This is €140 plus 15 shipping, and this is like in the same country as me. So 140 plus 15, €155 all in. The thing is, you can get them new for 139 plus 10 shipping, and this is from a different country. So the second-hand market of pedals is actually costing more on Reverb than buying them new. And I should mention that this is just an example to illustrate a wider problem. I have witnessed this consistently in the last few months, steadily increasing actually. It is definitely more than just an isolated incident. But just yesterday, it was announced that Reverb are in the process of selling to two investment partners. Creator Partners, an investment firm, and Servco, a Hawaiian car dealership. Yeah. Now, on the surface, that doesn't seem like it's going to be too different from Etsy owning it, other than it's being privatized. Etsy being a publicly traded company who has to appease shareholders, well, this is more of a private thing. However, it's not as simple as it may seem, because that Hawaiian car dealership are also the majority investor in Fender Musical Instrument Corporation. It's their only music-related investment, but boy is it a big one. They are the majority shareholders, but not the only shareholders. Creator Partners, the other investor in Reverb now, also has a fair few investments, but the only musical instrument investment is Fender. Although they do have music-related investments, several, like SoundCloud and BMI. They also have several of these operations for investing in music royalties. And with this new acquisition, some people are concerned that Fender are going to have a little bit too much of a hold on the market. And is it something to be concerned about? Well, I think it would be naive to rule it out. This is a press release from August 2024 when Fender announced that they were getting into the pre-owned market by launching the first ever Fender certified pre-owned program. And just read this sentence here. Over the past 2 years, used and like new musical instrument sales have been a bright spot in the industry. On Reverb, sales for used guitars have grown by more than 50% from 2019 to 2023, while MRIC, which sells refurbished instruments as Franklin Music Works on Reverb, has grown into a top seller on Reverb over the past 2 years. It's no secret that Fender and their investors have their eyes on Reverb and the second-hand market. Reverb released a statement which we'll take a little bit of a look at in a second, but in the short time between this announcement statement and now, people voiced their concerns about Fender's kind of control of the second-hand industry, and it had to get what seems to be a little bit of an extra statement released through Music Radar, where they said Fender will not get preferential treatment. It seems that Music Radar reached out to Fender to get this because it's not in Reverb's official press release, but they say that Reverb has confirmed that Fender will not receive quote-unquote preferential treatment from the marketplace. Reverb's partnership with Fender will remain unchanged, including Fender's certified pre-owned program, which is just one of more than 20 certified pre-owned shops brands have opened on Reverb. And while that is the absolute best outcome we can hope for, there are still reasons to have some concern. I'm going to read Reverb's statement, their official press release, and we can take a little look through. Today I'm excited to share that 2 new investors, Creator Partners and Servco, have entered an agreement to purchase Reverb from Etsy. Once the deal closes, we'll be a privately held, independently operated company backed by 2 investors who bring a passion for the musical instrument industry, as well as a community-first approach and a deep desire to help transform creative industries for the better. There's this paragraph about who the investors are, but we already know that Creative Partners are an investment company who are mainly digital, but they do have an investment in a lot of musical related companies, BMI, SoundCloud, and so on. And then Servco, who have been involved in the musical instrument industry since 1937, including a long history with Fender. So we know that. The musicians, shops, and brands who use Reverb have always been at the center of all that we do, and these 2 partners will help us support our community in new and better ways. What it means for our community is probably the most important bit. When this deal is complete, in the coming weeks, we'll return to operating as a standalone business. We won't be merging with either investor or any other companies in their portfolios, and our team will remain intact. In short, you can continue buying and selling on Reverb as you normally would without any disruption. That said, we hope that you do notice positive changes as we continue to focus on making Reverb the best place to buy and sell music gear. Here's just a sampling of what we've already got in the works. We've been working to make more music making software available on Reverb so you can change up your sound even if you're limited on space or money. Okay, cool. Selling software. Now that's not really going to be that much of a second-hand market, but it's a market nonetheless involved in the musical instrument industry. We're getting ready to pilot a new option for selling that allows you to get paid faster and drop off your gear locally without needing to create a listing or ship. Now that was a particularly strangely worded sentence to me, because you don't have to create a listing, you're going to be able to get paid faster. There's a lot of words to say Reverb are going to buy the gear from you instead of a buyer. Like, that's Reverb have always been the middleman. This is a big change that they're piloting here. The idea that you would be selling the gear to Reverb, because that's what it would be, dropping it off locally, and unless it's selling it to retailers, but how would that work? Because why would you have to do it with Reverb? You could just go to retailers and trade in a secondhand guitar. That's already a thing. So it seems like it's selling it to Reverb, which is an interesting proposition. The final point seems like incremental improvements in the general operations of Reverb. They've got teams working on making it easier to find what you're looking for on Reverb, ship your items safely, and resolve your support issues quickly. Now the link to that statement in full will be in the description below, along with the link to the Music Radar article. But what are my thoughts on it? Well, I hope that they stay true to what they're saying, that Fender won't get preferential treatment, and that it's going to be an entirely separate thing. With that said, I still do think that there are reasons to be cautious about this, because it could change. There's nothing to say that that won't change in 6 months' time, just how fees go up or whatever. the whole operation could change pretty quickly. And the reason why is, well, it's very clear from this statement that the investors now have very much a big say in transforming what Reverb is. Backed by two investors who bring a passion for the musical instrument industry, as well as a community-first approach and a deep desire to help transform creative industries for the better. Both partners only have investment in Fender Musical Instrument Corporation, and that is a big corporation. We've got brands of Squier, Fender, Jackson, Charvel, Gretsch, and then they license EVH. That's a lot of guitars in the guitar industry. We're talking amps, pedals, modelers, kind of everything under the Fender brand, or sub-brands in the umbrella of FMIC. And it's no secret that owning a huge chunk of the second-hand market has some competitive advantages if you wanted to implement them. There's things that are easy, and I'm not talking about halting sales on other brands of guitars. That wouldn't make any sense. They own the platform, they make money off every sale that's on the platform. But this diving into Reverb buying the guitars from you is something that could change things very, very quickly. You know, selling gear is one thing, but what gear do they want to buy? There's nothing to say that they wouldn't just buy Fender, Jackson, Charvel, EVH, Gretsch guitars, take them off the market at a lower price, and then resell at a higher price, maintaining a high used resale value as well as the high sale value at new. Reverb already know what a current market rate for a product is, and if a listing is lower than that, they could swoop in and buy it off the seller before it even goes live for the rest of us. There are plenty of things that could be done to Reverb and in turn Fender's benefit that would not benefit the overall end consumer. That, of course, is worst case scenario, which we're going to really hope, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen, so fingers crossed that that doesn't happen. With that said, though, I think what everybody needs and what Reverb needs is to be competitive. You know, the prices these days on Reverb, they're not the deals that they used to be. There are competitors. In the US, you've got Sweetwater Gear Exchange, which probably isn't that much of a competitor because it's just the US versus Reverb being worldwide, eBay being worldwide. Local markets. Guitar Center in the US is probably the best place to get pedals, like as a marketplace. You can go on their website and see all the pedals from across the 300 stores that they have, and they're all used way priced below anything on Reverb. Yes, you can get in with Reverb offers, but it's never a sure thing. So Reverb do have competition, and they need to be competitive with that. And I don't know, as long as the new investors don't want their return, because we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in investment here, if they don't want that return too quickly, they should probably keep those fees the same or even down. That would always be really nice for everybody. But if they raise them, they're going to alienate some people, I would say. Reverb doesn't feel the same like it did, you know, pre-2019 or before that. Anyway, those are just my thoughts on the whole Reverb. Being sold news. If you think that this is a good thing, if you think this is a bad thing, or if you're just sitting on the fence, weighing options, seeing what might happen, say it in the comments. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!